City Talks with Reuben Abati.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of your number one talk show, City Talks with Reuben Abati, on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051 FM. Well, this is our first edition this year. So let me wish all of you, our wonderful, very kind listeners out there, a happy and prosperous New Year. As you know, on this show, we talk about stories of political and human interest, especially those that affect us as Nigerian citizens and as members of a global human community. Today, we'll be discussing the Magodo Land Crisis, Magodo Phase 2, that is, here in Lagos, and we'll also look at a few other issues within the Nigerian political circle. What is the Magodo Land Crisis all about? I'm sure you must have seen the video of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State addressing a police officer who led other policemen to the estate to execute a Supreme Court judgment on properties in Magodo Phase 2. The part of what triggered the controversy is the fact that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu ordered the policeman to vacate the estate, but the officer refused outright, insisting that he was acting on the orders of the Inspector General of Police and the Attorney General of the Federation. That argument triggered so many issues, particularly state policing, true federalism, and the spectacle of an officer of the police, a chief superintendent of police, in this case, Abimbola Oyewole, undermining the authority of a state governor, who in essence is otherwise described in the Constitution, Section 215, subsection 4 thereof, as Chief Security Officer of the state. You can see there's so much to talk about. These governors, they are called Chief Security Officers, but in reality, they are helpless, they are powerless. Whatever may be their interest in protecting land, property, and everything within their areas of jurisdiction. But to guide us through this, we have a special guest today, and it is with great pleasure that we have here with us today a lawyer who has been in the business for many years, a civil rights activist, and is also the Mayegun Are Ono Kakanfo of Yoruba land, Dr. Kayode Ajulo. Thank you, Dr. Ajulo, for joining us and for accommodating us into your schedule, although you are out of the country on vacation.
Well, thank you very much. It's always my pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ajulo, for joining us. So now, before we go into the conversation proper, here's a short profile of our guest. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, who is our guest. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, who is our guest, is a lawyer, is a civil society activist, is a community leader. Before the 2015 Nigeria general elections, Ajulo was National Secretary of the Labour Party from 2014 to 2015. In 2019, he was confirmed as the Mayegun Are Ono Kakanfo of Yoruba land by Iba Gani Adams. In 2011, long before then, he contested for the Federal Capital Territory senatorial seat as a candidate of the Labour Party. In 2020, Ajulo was appointed member of the Edo State governorship primary election. Well, that's just a brief profile of our guest, Kayode Ajulo. As you know, he's a lawyer, he's a civil society activist. And if you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051. You can also leave comments on WhatsApp 09099164403 and on our social media accounts at City 1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Thank you very much again, Dr. Kayode Ajulo, for joining us on City Talks. Let's begin the conversation very quickly. You wrote a piece on the incident at Magodo Phase 2, and you were accusing the governor of Lagos State of contempt of court. You were saying, more or less, that as the judgment debtor, he had no business going there in the first place. And as I told you previously, before this program, I don't agree with you. I think that the governor of Lagos State did well by going there to prevent what looked like a potential breakdown of law and order. as the persons who have buildings, plots in that estate, armed with certificates of occupancy, have every right to protest, and they had been protesting, and they invited the governor to come there and see things for himself. And the governor went there with his entire cabinet, and he tried to calm down nerves. He set up a committee, but you say, it was a curious, dubious intervention, and that if those were a lawful country, the governor himself should have been charged for contempt. Save the fact that he's protected by immunity under the constitutions. Still, I do not agree with you. But what is your point?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Abati. Let me first thank you for making this platform available for everyone to hear his view, and from there we learn from it. On this issue, let me start by quoting John Kennedy when he said, "Those who made peaceful revolution impossible, they will certainly make violent one possible." And that is exactly what is playing out in this scenario. And I think I'm going to take some of your time to interrogate where we are coming from, and we got to the final issue that happened on what everybody is so disgusted about. The issue basically started from the Lagos state government, who happened to be a party in the matter. A landed property was taken from the landlord under the pretext that it is going to be used for public interest. And in so doing, the property was taken away from them. And after taking the property away from them, it was later dawned on the landlords to know that this is not what the property was taken away for, to build an hospital, only for you to start selling the property to other people. And based on that, they went to court. It was over 30 years ago. And 29 years ago, Justice Balogun of Lagos State High Court gave an injunction that those landlords, they are entitled to sole numbers of about 549 plots of land should be given to them. 29 years ago, instead of obeying that court order, the matter moved to appeal, from appeal to Supreme Court. And in 2012, Supreme Court gave the judgment for the landlord that they are entitled to such plots of land. And I remember the late judgment, that is by my lords, Honorable Justice Olabode Road Bible, at page 40 of that judgment, emphatically explained and directed that this is the numbers of the plot that must be given to the landlords. That is judgment creditor. And as at that time, the Lagos state government were aware of this matter. And that is why I first raised that first quotation from the Kennedy, that if you refuse to make peaceful change possible, what you are asking for is violent change. Now, as it is, what is expected of all governments, particularly the person, is to quickly obey the law. Section 17 of our constitution is so clear on the nation we are building. That's why it's talking about state social order, and it says Nigeria is founded on the idea of freedom, equality, and justice. And it is that section 17 that talked about the integrity of the judiciary. And that's why that section explained that at all times we must maintain the independence, impartiality, and integrity of judiciary of our courts. Now, having been done, what is expected of Lagos state government is to ensure that that judgment is followed and the judgment is enforced. But because of the vested interest, which all of us can attribute to and can infer to, it's been delayed. For 12 years, it took the landlords, that is those are the judgment creditor, to move forth and back, even down to the NJC, that's National Judicial Council, down to the federal government, to ensure that this judgment has to be enforced. And when we look at the section 287 of our constitution, it's so clear on how to enforce judgment and who to enforce it. And it's so clear that the governor of Lagos State, who happened to be one of the parties in that matter, even in fact judgment debtor, realized what it is. For you to know that it is the process is to enforce the court judgment, and at that point to find yourself there giving a contrary order, trying to subvert that enforcement of that judgment, trying to subvert the pronouncement of the Supreme Court and every other court. To me, it's even an impeachable offense. I think we need to know that it's an impeachable offense. And if it is in a situation that it's just unfortunate that the client will hear, in other client, everybody will be asking that the governors have to be removed. But unfortunately, we're in Nigeria. This is Nigeria, and everything goes. So that is the position. One thing that is so clear in this issue is that the governor of Lagos State cannot and can never deny the fact that he knows what happened in that place. Cannot deny the fact that what the police officers are doing at that particular point is to enforce the judgment of the court. And cannot deny the fact that apart from that police officer, that CSP that he approached, there are other, even including sheriff of the court, that are there and to play to the gallery and trying to give contrary order to subvert the judgment of the court. I think that one is something that it's even more than contempt. It's even a good crime. There should be a way to be talking of the impeachment proceeding of the governor, and that is my humble opinion on this issue.
Yeah, but what can be said in defense of the governor, perhaps, is that look, given the heated situation in Magodo, he as the governor of the state, forget the fact that his judgment creditor representing the state, for him it's an inherited problem. The crisis did not start under his watch. In fact, the fight over that Magodo Phase 2 estate started as far back in 1969. In 1984, yes, the state began to engage with the purported owners, and were told that the Shangisha Landlords Association were the people who lost out in the 1984 negotiations. Then they went to court in 1988. Then the Supreme Court decided in 2012. Now, the Supreme Court judgment that you referred to, if you look at that judgment, the text of which I have here, is not in any way declaratory. In fact, the court weighed heavily on the side of the doctrine of equity. The judgment, again, was not specific in terms of identifying plots of land. If there are 549 plots of land, so the people, the judgment creditors who went to take possession, acting on their own, which particular plots are they attaching? Those buildings that they went and marked, those buildings have certificates of occupancy. So the residents of Magodo Phase 2 are saying that this land was legitimately allocated to them. If the state government did not follow the rules prescribed, the advisory notes by the Supreme Court in the ruling of 2012, should it be innocent people, innocent landlords that should pay for it? That's the conundrum here.
But it's not as simple as you mentioned, Dr. Abati. Let me say this before going further, that most of the landlords at the Magodo estate happen to be some of these I know very well. So the issue in Magodo is not that maybe one may not know what it is. At page 40 of the Supreme Court judgment, which I said was read by my Lord Justice Olabode Reuben, gave a directive that 549 plots must be given to the landlord at Shangisha. I think that is the
Shangisha. Yes.
Shangisha. It was there at page 41. It was there. And what is expected for the past 12 years, Dr. Abati, 12 years, it is expected that Lagos State government, particularly being the judgment creditor, debtor, ought to have by now identified what to be done. And again, I must say this, like you said the Supreme Court tried to be hairs on the side of equity. The equity of that case demands that the Lagos State government, playing about 4 or 3 roles, apart from being a judgment creditor, happen to be the government of the day. Apart from the government of the day, They are the trusted that hold the trust of the people, and they are accountable, hold to have been able to have sit down to say, look, our situation as it is now, justice must be done. And it's expected that within 12 years, this issue hold to have been resolved. And for the Lagos State government, up to this moment, yet to resolve it. That is why I quickly raised that issue of those that failed to allow peaceful revolution to take place. The only thing they call for is violent revolution. Lagos State government is the main issue, whatever you call it, agent provocateur, or those that cause the major problem. And it's so clear. And it's expected. The justice, as you are saying, you have your men calling for justice for the landlord, that is those that are in that estate, those that this land were taken away from many years back, demolish their places, send them away. They are Nigerians too. Justice, they demand justice, and haven't gone from the High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. Supreme Court finally, 12 years ago, gave judgment for them, and they are yet, and you mind you, they die virtually every from time to time. And it is expected that Lagos State government know the right thing to do. Not that it will now get to a point when it's not getting to the boiling point. You move over, you move in like Caesar, to now order the officer of the law, the officer of the court, to vacate the place. It is uncalled for. And like I said when we were discussing this morning, I said, look, I'm one of the advocates for state police. But what happened, what transpired between the governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Sanwo-Olu, and that police officer is anathema, is a disservice to that call for state police. So the question now is this: and even that we have state police, you can, without looking at the equity and justice of the case, because you want to ensure that you are a judge in your own case, or that justice should not be served. I think that is low, and that is unfortunate.
Well, the same governor of Lagos State has since gone ahead to set up a committee, and that committee is supposed to liaise with the Shangisha Landlords Association to see if there are still available plots that can be allocated to the judgment creditors. If that is not available, then maybe there will be other plots in some other parts of Lagos. I refer to page 40 of the 2012 Supreme Court judgment. Okay, I opened to that page, and it talks about 1969 demolition of buildings, which shows that this matter had been out there since 1969. It talks about preferential allocation of land, and also, the substantive issues. And in page 41, the landed judge held in the judgment as follows. Okay, we don't need to go into that because, we're not in a courtroom. But now that the governor of Lagos State has set up a committee to solve this inherited problem, what do you think of the measures being adopted to give the 549 plots either in Magodo Phase 2 or elsewhere in Lagos State? Bearing in mind that previously an attempt was made in that direction and the judgment creditors proved difficult. Now, to think that houses that are already erected in Magodo Phase 2 will be demolished to accommodate their interests, the owners of those buildings, armed with certificates of occupancy, are saying that will not happen. So what do you think is likely to happen hereafter?
Well, let me start by saying this. Unfortunately, the judgment creditor, those are the landlord in Shangisha. Unfortunately, they are not part of this discussion, so nobody is holding their brief, and I'm not to hold the brief of anyone, just to speak to say my mind and to render my opinion. First, the committee set up by the governor. If that one has to be done just now, we will know that it is late in the day. But irrespective of that, we still have to accept it and to see what it is. But one thing that we should know is this: all these fire brigade approaches, I think what we want need to not to speak against. For 12 years, it is not until someone will try to lose the limbs of his arms before the government need to be responsive to his calling and to his duty. If a judgment had been given 12 years ago, and if it is just now, The Lagos State government can now wake up from the slumber to think, oh, we need to do what is right. I think we need to know where the whole thing is driving to. And like I said, the Supreme Court has even helped the party in this matter by trying to do something that is practicable. Allocate land, and I want to know, 12 years ago till now, Lagos State government have been allocating lands day in, day out. And why are these people not considered till now? These are the things I think we need to interrogate. But by and large, I think kudos must be given to the Lagos State government that at the end of the day, they listen to the voice of reason.
Okay, about state police, one major drama out there was CSP Abimbola Oyewole telling the governor of Lagos State clearly that he does not take instructions from him. Whereas in section 215, subsection 4, governors are identified as chief security officers, although with a caveat that, if the governor gives a directive to a police officer and all of that, then that police officer will have to clear with the police hierarchy all the way to the Inspector General of Police, who under section 215, subsection 3, reports directly and takes directives only from the president of Nigeria. Now, the Southwest governors, led by Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State, issued a statement saying that this is an abuse of federalism. This is amounts to humiliation of state governors, and that this cannot be the way we will run Nigeria. Now, did you think that CSP Oyewole throwing the books at Governor Sanwo-Olu was good behavior?
Well, let me let you know one thing that, with due respect to the governor of Lagos State, is to some point misguided, in the sense that the governor, as the governor of a state, ought to know the chains of command. I cannot come to your house to order your gate man, saying that because I'm a friend of Dr. Abati, and tell your gate man, please go and bring biro or pencil, or go and bring pot of soup from your house. I know that when it comes to that, is either I'm talking to you directly as Dr. Abati, or I talk to Mrs. Abati, who I'm sure is the commander-in-chief of your kitchen. I think that is one of the things. The governor needs to know that when it comes to change of command, police has its own hierarchical order. Police is a structure, a security structure, that you need to talk to the right person at the right time. And again, one thing we have to know very well is this: as at the time, what the police were doing there is to enforce the judgment of the court, and they are the officer of the court. The duty of police there is to ensure that there is safety and to ensure law and order, and that is one thing. As at the time when it comes to enforcement of court judgments, all the officers involved are under the roles of sheriffs of the court. The CSP Oyewole is being seen as a police, but at that point, CSP Oyewole is an officer of the court. It is like now, let me look at the scenario. No matter whatever it is, yes, Governor Sanwo-Olu is chief security officer of Lagos State. You cannot just walk over to a judge to say, my lord, I order you to jail this so person. It is not done. And it's the same way, and it's akin to what Governor Sanwo-Olu doing, talking to a CSP, which that is his rank, but performing a function of due and to implement administration of justice. To so do that, of course, it will never happen. That one is so clear, and I think that's where the problem is. And to the Nigeria, I think the governors forum from the southwest, from the south. Yes, I believe we need to consider what is written out within the context it is written. The forum of governors, we know, is to defend the governor, not even the states. Is to defend such governor, so it's partisan, and whatsoever that is being said is partisan. The issue is this: if the forum should say the truth, the forum should know that this is not the issue of state police. This is the issue between the power play between the judiciary and Lagos State government. And it is so clear that when it comes to that, each arms of government has its own roles to play. The judiciary has played the role. What the Lagos State governor is trying to do is to stifle that roles of the judiciary. by in form of subversion. And I think the thing has to be put in its own context. What is done that day, it is not about issue of state police. That's why, I mentioned this thing earlier, that I'm one of the proponents of state police. I've advocated it, I think I've canvassed it on your platform before. But what transpired that day is a law. Is not what can be used to converse for state police. Because if you remember, if you can take this in context, the federal government has been raising this issue that one of the reasons why state police will not be possible is that the governors may use it as a tool to oppress, to violate people's rights, and to cause some havoc and mayhem. And Governor Sanwo-Olu demonstrated that day that being that police, Lagos State Police, or that is really in charge, will have used that process. It will have subverted that process, and it will have violated some people's right as given to them by the court. And that is not what we should not promote.
Well, except that in this particular case, some people will say it was the federal police oppressing the governor of Lagos State. But I guess in this matter, it's a question of perspective. Well, Dr. Ajulo, thank you for...
It is not...
Okay.
It is not... Like from what has been explained, enforcement of court judgment is a process sanctioned by our constitution. And the way it has to be done, it's so clear. And that is why I mentioned Section 287. If you allow me, I would like to quickly read it. Section 287, subsection 1 to 3 of Nigerian Constitution as amendment states, the decision of Supreme Court shall be enforced in any part of the Federation by all authorities and persons and by courts with subordinate jurisdiction to that of the Supreme Court. By this provision, even Dr. Abati, you can come today or any other day to elect to help the court to enforce its judgment, particularly Supreme Court judgment, and that is what it is. So it is like citizen policing. AJA allows private citizen to make arrests, and this provision of the Constitution allow anybody. And as it is, the duty of the police officer and all those people there is to enforce the judgment of the court. And for now to see a government to now want to subvert that is something, like I say, I repeat, need to be speak against.
Well, except that the counter argument to that is that the action taken by Adebayo Adeyiga and others in this particular instance on December 21 was not derived from an order of court. It looked like self-help, the resort to self-help. Because you recall that the Shangisha Landlords Association, led by Adeyiga Chief, had gone to court to seek a warrant of execution and a warrant of possession. And there was a cross appeal in that regard. So in the absence of a definitive court order, was it right for the judgment creditors to storm the estate with the aid of federal might and to say that they wanted to enforce a judgment that had not been given by a court of law? I'm sure, Counsel, you are aware of this levy execution case.
Dr. Abati, we are lawyers, and we know that this matter, the Supreme Court has given the final judgment. And some people, in a way to subvert that judgment, elected to approach the Court of Appeal again. And we are lawyers, we know that filing of an appeal and an external appeal cannot and will never constitute a stay
of execution.
The appeal, what I would like to hear from the appeal is that if there's any contrary order or opinion or judgment that says that Supreme Court judgment can stay, as long as there is no stay and there's no order of stay of execution of that Supreme Court judgment, I don't think it has no bearing in this matter. Because anybody can file any case in court, anybody can go on appeal, but we know that appeal cannot constitute a stay of execution of any court judgment. I think that one cleared the whole issue. Anybody can quickly go, and that one is so certain. We do not deceive. perspective on that.
Okay, on that note, Kayode Ajulo, PhD, we would like to throw this conversation open. But first, let's take a short break. And when we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
City Talks with Reuben Abati.
And for those of you who are just tuning in, welcome to City Talks with Reuben Abati on your number one live station, City 1051 FM. And I remain your host, Reuben Abati. We have been discussing the Magodo Land Crisis and other issues, and our guest is a lawyer and civil rights activist, Dr. Kayode Ajulo. Remember, if you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051 and on WhatsApp 090 99 164 403. And you can watch us live on our social media handles at City 1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Dr. Ajulo, thank you very much for staying with us. So we'll take calls, we'll take interventions from people who have been part of this conversation. But before we get our first call in and, we take messages from WhatsApp, Dr. Ajulo, what would be your advice with the present state of matters, with so many stakeholders involved? What will you be saying to the judgment creditors and the judgment debtors?
Well, my advice would be that, particularly as it is, today, not only the judgment creditor are the victims are those, the landlords, the extant landlord and the occupiers of the estate. And when you have such issues, what is expected that the governors, that and the Lagos State government should do is to embark on what I can call an alternative dispute resolution by bringing everybody on the table, which I believe they are just started, and to look for a way equitably to resolve the issue. I know it will be quite a bit impracticable to send the occupied now away from their land and from their houses, which I agree with. But I think what matters most is for the government to be responsive immediately to really fix it. Then we won't have all this issue. Lagos State government have been allocating lands to different set of people. Even last year, we saw it where it was advertised that so amount of land has been allocated. I don't see the reason why the order of the Supreme Court that they should be forced preferred when it comes to allocation should not be done. This is 12 years. It is expected. If had it been anyway, don't let me go that way. But if justice has to be done, those landlords in Shanshigisha, that is judgment creditor, ought to have been settled, ought to have been given an alternative land, and ought to have been duly compensated. We won't be discussing this. But unfortunately, in Nigeria, we always believe might is right and we can do whatever that needed to be done. But I think with this, we'll learn some lesson from it.
Okay, fine. We already have reactions. This is from Adegboyega Adedeji on WhatsApp. He says, the way Dr. Reuben Abati is speaking, it seems he has a building or he has close relatives in that estate. The truth is that there is a Supreme Court judgment ordering the forfeiture of houses marked for demolition based on justice. Is it because those living in Magodo are elites? That's why Governor Sanwo-Olu is acting like Voltron, the defender of the universe. Many Nigerians have lost their lands, properties, and source of livelihood to land grabbers, others of the courts, etc., and we didn't see Lagos State Governor on the scene defending them. Why is this one different? Whenever anything affects the elites, that's when the goalposts will be asked to be shifted. This matter doesn't warrant state police. It's a case of theft by conversion. Adegboyega Adedeji. Well, that's Adegboyega Adedeji, a regular on this program's point of view. But I don't have a building there,
Where Adegboyega,
so,
if
I'm not a landlord in Magodo phase 2. But don't worry. You never know tomorrow. Yes, Ajulo, over to you.
Yes, if I must be sincere, I think I raised a caveat to say that I have some interest in Magodo. First, most of my friends, they are occupier of that place, and I know about 2 or 3 companies which I have interest in owns the land there. But that shouldn't be the issue. What we are discussing here is justice. What we are discussing here is equity. What we are discussing here is that the right thing must be done at all times, and that is why you can never go wrong if you follow justice. You can never go wrong if you follow the law. It is not because maybe I own a house or maybe it belongs to my friend. The right thing has to be done. Today it may be Magodo. Tomorrow it may even be in it may even be in Jora, it may even be in some other places. But the essence of following the law is that you can never go wrong if we follow the law. And I think that is what the way it should be. And I don't think anybody needs to blame Dr. Abati in whatever way. He needs to elicit some reaction from me, and it's always good sometimes to act as a devil advocate sometimes, so that the whole thing can move smoothly. I don't think Dr. Abati should be accused of any partiality when it comes to this kind of interviews.
Thank you very much, Counsel, for defending me. Anyway, I was going to dwell more on the issue of state police, because I thought I saw a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police on WhatsApp, on our Zoom, but I can't find him there again. I think he has left. I would have loved him to comment on the conduct of that police officer. But I see Professor Kemi Rotimi, who is a leading expert on police history and affairs in Nigeria. But, well, maybe I will see the AIG coming back, or Professor Kemi Rotimi will try to say something on that issue of state police, which President Muhammadu Buhari says, by the way, about the same time. He said that it is not an option, because state governors are tyrants. They will oppress people. They will abuse powers that will be given to them. And that's another issue on its own. But very quickly, we seem to have some callers on the line. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Good afternoon. Your name, your location?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Abati. We have to fill up on the line, calling from the state right now. I say happy new year to Dr. Ajulo. You see, number one, we are just too hypocritical. And if I'm not making a mistake, according to the allegation of the Southwest governors, they appointed the Minister of Justice. You understand? And what about, I want to ask something, what about all the judgments against the federal government? For instance, payment, to maybe some of the organizations like SERAP, some individuals, even the case of Sunday Igboho, that is the invasion of his house, and there's a court order that they should pay some money for the breaching of his personal peace. All of these, federal government has not even done the right thing. There are court orders which are yet to be obeyed. I know again, I think about Yadebanjo has a claim of over 1 million naira against the government, and up to today, that money has not been paid to him. What is good for the goose is also good for the gander. And if we are not saying because there was a court order in favor of the people in Magodo, which is fine by me, then quickly you have to rush to action, call police from the federal, whatever, bring them down to implement that judgment. And I think something is wrong. If the rich can benefit, other people too should also benefit. That's one. Now on the issue of land, for me, the crux of overriding public interest, we need to look into that very, very well. For instance, the governor of any state can come up tomorrow and say my own land or my own property is needed by the government just for public overriding interest. What is public overriding interest? Because if that land was not taken over by Bola Ahmed regime, then this problem would not have arisen. And after then, we shared that place and later became private properties owned by people who bought it from state government. This for me is no. Then number two, the presence of Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I'm not his fan. I'm not Babajide Sanwo-Olu's fan, especially the contribution he made in the NSAS problem. So I will never be a lover of any government that did such. But we know what these police people can do. At the end of the day, they will tell you it's an unknown policeman, and we know what has been happening in the north, where people with military uniform go everywhere like bandits and kill and go. These people can do anything there that day, and by now, all we hear is unknown unknown policemen. So his presence there for me was okay. Whether it was embarrassed according to some people or it was ridicule, that is secondary to me. What is important is that nobody was killed on that day, because I know anything can happen on that day. Finally, on the issue of the state police, whether the president agrees with state police or not, we all see that nowhere is secure in this country. Nowhere is secure. Nowhere is secure. And for with Governor Kayode Ajulo, he just went to the gallery. He's part of the APC, and they made their promises. Why are they going against the government when, of course, they are still in government as well? So I think that's a hypocrisy. Thank you very much.
Okay, you raised 5 points in all, although you stopped counting at the second point. But I'm sure Dr. Ajulo heard you clearly. The points you raised particularly about hypocrisy and also about the law being the law. Yes, Dr. Ajulo.
Well, let me start. He raised a lot of issues, and I would beg him to forgive me if I cannot address all. But let me address it as I remembered what he raised. I think the first one is on enforcement of judgment. Enforcement of judgment on its own has own process. The process, it requires a lawyer to know how to go all about it. But what matters most here is tenacity, vigilance, and how dexterous whosoever the petitioner handling it. I don't want to believe that the judgment is being enforced maybe because partially or because depending on who is involved. Though you mentioned Judge Baba Adebanjo is a lawyer, I want to believe, and if his money is still being pending with the state of authority, I believe that as a lawyer, he knows what to do, or his lawyer knows what to do. There is a process of garnishing procedure in which you can garnish the police account, which is allowed. And like I said, what matters most is vigilance, is how diligent a lawyer should be. And I believe either the way judgment can be enforced in Magodo, you can go to Morocco, you can go to all the other places to enforce it. And all that matters most is for you to apply the sound reason of law and to know how to go about it. Like on this enforcement, we have the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, in which you can use to enforce government the judgment of the court. And today, I just mentioned what the Constitution says about enforcing judgment of the court. One is a grand norm, that is constitutional provision. Another one is the legislative one, which is a federal law. What matters most is that government judgment of the court has to be enforced, and the way and manner it is done, I think it's only the petitioner that knows how to go in doing that. Then I think you mentioned again the issue of partiality and I mean not, but one thing I want us to know basically is that our government, they always assume that once they are there, it is for them. Like for example, recently when somebody, a very senior citizen of this country, saying that the government owns somewhere, I don't believe I've interjected and I've let them know that government did not hold anything. What the government is doing is holding in trust for the people. People owns everything in this world. People owns anything in this country. What matters was that those who find themselves saddled with the governance of this country cannot be seen and be acting as if they are the owners of people's commonwealth. They are only a trustee. For example, when my father died, my father appointed some people to superintend his property, whereas I, as a son, I still remain the owners of all the property, and my brothers all his property. But he has some people who are superintending, who we call trustee. That is the way government should be. But today we see government and governors acting like the landlords, like the owners of everything. The governors, as it is to do. That is why you find that before they start the operation of governance, they have to be administered on an oath. The first oath of office as of their office. Second one is the oath of allegiance. At the end of that oath of office as governor is to swear that you do justice to all manners of men, irrespective of their station and whatever they are. But unfortunately, it seems that they always forget that oath of office maybe they get there. And I think these are the things we need to do. All what we are saying in essence is this: what matters most is governance. Governance premises on equity, governance premises on justice, and governance premises on good conscience. And once we have that, I'm sure the governor of any given state will realize that I need not take this land from the owner, lying to them or deceiving them that I want to turn into one mega thing that will be for all. Then quickly start allocating to your nooks for your friends and families. And can we call that one justice? And the same government can come today to talk to me to say, yes, I'm acting and working for the people. No, that is what brought this, and I believe the lesson must have been learned, and this thing will be over. Then on the issue of state police, as it is, by going by the provision of the Constitution, the police, Nigerian police, is under the command of the commander-in-chief of the command of the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, which today is Muhammadu Buhari. However, when it comes to supervision, management of the police, there's something we call the police council, who oversees the police. We need not deceive ourselves. The Constitution has made all governors members of that council. Day in, day out, there are a lot of appointments, particularly when it comes to appointment of the Inspector General of Police, which is number one police officer. Our Constitution made it mandatory that it must be this police council, that is, of which each governors are members of that council. But each time this Inspector General of Police will be appointed with it, in my own belief, without the input of these state governors. Until today, we are yet to see any of the state governors that will come out to say, look, I have no input in this. This is against the law, and who is to fight for them when we find ourselves in that situation? I want to believe that our Constitution has given this command and control of the police to governors. What remains is how they should enforce that, and we cannot use what transpired between the governor of the state and that chief superintendent of police as yardstick of how the command should be. And that's why I quickly use the analogy of Dr. Abati. I know Dr. Abati can never call me his enemy. I can come to Dr. Abati's house. I can ask that I'm hungry. But you can't expect me because I'm hungry, because Dr. Abati is a lawyer, because Dr. Abati is my brother. I will come over to his house and I will call his gate man and say, please go to the kitchen to fetch me food. He will refuse. And I'm sure even if he should do that, Dr. Abati should sack him. All I need to do is to approach Dr. Abati or to approach his wife and to know that I should be able to identify the change of command. But for any governor to approach the chief superintendent of police, which we equally can be served even as ADC, and control him and start giving order that that will never be obeyed, because that same officer is under the command of someone. Why talking to the CSP? Why don't you call the Inspector General of Police? Why don't you even ask your Commissioner of Police to do that? And I think that is where the issue is. And when you do this, you know that actually, so clearly, apparently, that the governor is misguided. And I think that is the situation, and we need to call a spade a spade. Okay. We cannot use that as a yardstick of whether the governor has a control.
Okay, you referred, Dr. Ajulo, to the police council as provided for in Part 1, text schedule of the Constitution, sections 27 to 28. Yes, it refers to appointments, governors having a say in the same manner in which Section 215, subsection 4, describes governors rhetorically as chief security officers. But, okay, governors may be members of the police council, but they have no control over the operations of the police or the command of the police. That is where the problem is, because all of those powers are located in the office of the President of Nigeria under Section 215, subsection 3. And the governors are saying they too want powers of control And civil society activists are saying it should be possible for a governor, say a governor like Lagos State, whose government contributes a lot to police maintenance, should be given the powers, should have a say in how the police operate within its jurisdiction. But it looks like we have another caller on the line. Let's take that quickly.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Abati.
Thank you.
This is Magodo from the Salon. I agree that you know that too. Look, we can't take knee-jerk reactions all because of one action and then create a state police. It's not feasible and it's also at this stage. Morally speaking, Nigerian governors are emperors, to put it mildly, but to put it strictly, tyrants. So you can't give them absolute powers. Legally speaking, the state police is only one arm of government. I mean, under one arm of government. By that I mean the executive. If you are going to restructure a person, I use that overused word, then it becomes imperative that even the judiciary will be amended at the state level. We may say we have to have state TFS. We may have to have bicameral legislation. And on. Look at the country. I mean, the countries where they have state police. The American states, Idaho, Arkansas, which you mentioned, they have their state Senate Assembly. Like we have our own National Assembly, Senate, and House of Reps. They have their state in their state, their Senate, and their House of Reps. Apart from that, they have their state Supreme Court. They have their state intelligence. All peculiar to the states where they practice state policing. So we can't just because of one event of a governor who didn't really understand the show because he overstepped his bounds and he was dealing violence. So we can't, because of that, now start calling for what is not feasible by any means. Again, I maintain the police is under the executive arm of government, and if there will be a tweak in that aspect, then it is just necessary. It necessitates the fact that other arms of government too, at the state level, too must be tweaked because the laws that are peculiar to states will have to be seen from the judicial point, from the legislative point, and the executive point. So this clamor, let them go and sit down again and learn. Let them go and look at the countries that they practice state policing, how they are done. We can, because of just overfeeding, because I see that people calling for many things they don't know anything about. Because of one governor who does, as I said, who didn't really know what you should do. We don't call for that. The state police is not feasible. As I said, morally speaking.
Hello? We seem to have lost that connection there.
Yeah, morally speaking, you can't trust this. Northern senators. Power corrupt, absolute power corrupt, absolutely. With this ones with little power, they know how to hound their opponents when it comes to.
Hello? Well, it looks like we lost that connection again, but Dr. Ajulo, very quickly, before we take just one more intervention, and then we'll wrap it up. Over to you.
Yes, I think we were discussing, we were saying something before the caller came about the issue of the control of the police.
Yes. I
want us to know one thing, that when it comes to corporate law and corporate governance, what matters most is the way an organization is structured. The way Nigerian police is structured gives our state governors some control if they are honest and they can identify their rights and their duties when it comes to controlling police. And that's why I quickly refer you to that provision in which every state governors, they are members of the police council. Police council, and one of the functions of the police council is when it comes to the appointment of Inspector General of Police. By Police Act, Nigerian Police Act definition, you find out that in Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police happens to be the chief executive officer of whose day-to-day activities of the police, the management is in charge. Now, once you can hold the head, I believe the control of the police can be effective. But I raise one person, and I'm yet to see anyone responding to that. That since the Constitution had made the governors part of the decision to appoint the Inspector General of Police, at least in the past 7 years now, some numbers of Inspector General of Police have been appointed without the input, though from my own opinion, without the input of the state governors. And till today, we are yet to see any one of them raising the issue to say, I'm not involved in the decision making of this Inspector General of Police. What I'm saying is this: power is not given, it's not a la carte. You must earn it. If the Constitution has given you the power to see that when it comes to the issue of appointment of any Inspector General of Police, I must have a say, and I'm not allowed to have that say, I think I need to raise it. Irrespective of the fact that we have the Nigerian Police and Nigerian Governors Forum, till today, they had to raise anything, and that is the beginning of the control of the police. If any Inspector General of Police should know that my determination of my office depend on these fellows, he will sit up, he will listen to them. But in a situation that the system has made it in such a way that the governor has no say, then of course I'm not answerable to you, and that is that. But whereas what the Constitution tried to infer is to ensure that you are the chief security officer of your state, you must be able to have a say on the leadership and control of police. But unfortunately, that is not what it is. So the question which we are asking is, whose fault, where can we say lies the problem of not adhering to the provision of the Constitution?
Well, I mean, I don't want to argue. My job is just to draw you out and get responses from you. But if you look at, the issue raised by the last caller, it's not the governors themselves that are asking for state police. This was an issue at the 2004 National Political Reform Conference, the 2014 National Political Conference, as recently as May and July 2021. The Southern Governors Forum were also asking for state police, and the need for policemen, state governors to have control. You say they've been given control, but I'm arguing that if you look at Part 1, Third Schedule, Sections 27, 28, that police council is necessarily advisory where the governors are concerned, because the president of Nigeria is the chairman of that council. And I'm saying he's given absolute powers under Section 214, 215, subsections 3 and 4 thereof. But, you are not here for an argument with the anchor. But I think that these issues are out there.
Quickly, let me add to this. Like I said it, I think this is going to be the third time I'm going to say this, that I happen to be one of the proponents state policing, and even I've tried to do some research on it. And the truth has to be told. Though I want to say it is not yet Euro, but by and large, state policing has taken its course in Nigeria and is moving gradually. I say this, by the time you find out that in Kano we have ISBA, irrespective of their name nomenclature, they are police in their own setting. When you talk of Kia, when you talk of Amotekun, all I believe we just need to do is to continue to interrogate it, to give more powers to this. Because by the time you look at the definition of police and policing, police may not even need to carry to even be harmed. Policing is policing. But like I said, this is the beginning. Like there was a day I was discussing one of the state governors from the southwest. I told her, I said, the truth must be told. There's no camera here. This policing has taken its root. It is now with us. What is needed is for us to lap on, is to add more to the whole thing, and to continue to develop the process. And I don't think we need to deceive ourselves on that. But my worry, like I said, is that the altercation between the governor of Lagos State and the chief superintendent of police, and what that transpired within is the service to the campaign of state police. Because
okay, finally, Dr. Ajulo, we'll take just one more call and then we'll call it a day. Who is on the line? I saw the dashboard blinking. Okay, if we don't have any other caller out there on the line, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Kayode Ajulo, for taking time out to join us on City Talks with Reuben Abati. Well, looks like there's a caller there. Let's take that caller quickly and then we'll move on. Hello? Yeah, please be brief.
I let you go from command. My quick contribution is about how to come with a caveat. And if you are going to maintain the federal police, come with a caveat. The caveat is if it's a state police, there must be a way to check the governors from their abuse. Since we have the federal police, they nothing. If the ICE is going to send the policemen to Lagos to come and carry out an order, the governor must invite the governor must be aware of anything that happens. Because if anything happens, the governor will be held responsible. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Good. Dr. Ajulo, you heard him. One of the issues raised by the Southwest Governors Forum is that, look, this policeman stormed Magodo Phase 2 without any prior notification to the governor of Lagos State, and that it is strange.
The truth must be told. The notice has been there 12 years ago. They have been in Lagos is not for any other operation than to enforce the judgment of the court given 12 years ago, in which several efforts has been made to enforce, in which it has been stipulated by the state government. And state government, I believe, and I'm sure anybody listening will know that this government cannot deny not having notice. That notice has been served 12 years ago. Mind you, any judgment of the court is made to the public, is made known. This is even the situation that you don't even need police to resolve. Once a court has given a judgment, it is expected to be obeyed. And I want to say this, that some people will say, what is the position of the Attorney General of the Federation in this issue? We are living witness to many times Supreme Court we give judgment to ask that a so governor should vacate the seat, another one will take over. It is same governors that will be calling on the Attorney General to ensure that the judgment of the Supreme Court must be obeyed. Please, Attorney General, do the needful. How come Attorney General is doing the needful in Lagos State to ensure that justice is served to the people of Lagos State, and some people saying, what is Attorney General doing about the order? I think we have to be sincere here. What the police came to Lagos State for, they are officer of the court, and that is what it is. We model it up when we start looking at them from the point of the police. They are officer of the court, and they are there to enforce the court judgment in terms and in accordance with the provision of 2287. And this is what nobody can deny. And when the governor was even talking to that CSP, if you remember that, I've called your Attorney General. How did you know that it's Attorney General that sent them? I've talked to the IG. How do you know the IG has sent them? Because it's so clear. And at the end of the day, what I hate most, and I need to say this, is to even try to threaten the poor police officer. It is so it's uncalled for, and I think our government officials should learn from this. Okay,
just before we go, I got a WhatsApp message now. Mojit Jamil, who is a landlord in that Magodo Phase 2, says his hand is up on Zoom. Mojit Jamil, if you are still with us, if you could just go ahead, so that will be a response from a concerned party, a concerned landlord from Magodo Phase 2. Mojit Jamil, if you can hear me, please go ahead. Is it that he has signed out? Hello? Hello? Okay, I can't find Mojit Jamil on Zoom again. He probably signed out. But it's okay. It will have been interesting to know what his take is as one of those landlords being threatened in Magodo Phase 2. But on that note, I would like to thank you very much again, Kayode Ajulo, for joining us on City Talks with Reuben Abati. And all of you who called in, and everyone who reached out to us or tried to reach out to us on Zoom, WhatsApp, and Facebook. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can still reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990 on Instagram, and also at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, you don't need to worry. You can visit YouTube page City1051 to watch the entire show shortly. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave comments. And don't forget also to tune in next week at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Reuben Abati. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to joining you again next week. Bye for now.
City Talks with Reuben Abati.